Today's webinar, I was talking for the last 5 minutes and realized I was alive.
Now is it streaming, you think?
I think now we are on. I still didn't get the hint of all that webinar. I'm really not savvy with computer, so there's always something. But I think I'm on. As I mentioned earlier, please shoot an email that you can see me and hear me, and everything is good to go. You think I'm on, honey? Because
I'm not sure yet. I'm still waiting. It's a 40-second delay.
It looked the same as before.
Here it comes. Now you're on. You're going.
Now I'm going. So, because here, okay, so I'm going. So if you have any questions, once again, regarding the topic that you feel that might benefit everyone, or you do not understand any part of my teaching today, any concept, then shoot Clayton an email or a chat thingy, and he's gonna let me know, and I'm gonna answer the questions. So today we're gonna talk about punishment in the afterlife. I kind of like that topic because people that are new to spirituality or perhaps still have like maybe religion belief from growing up, like I did for many years, of course. I can see you now. Okay, so thanks, guys. Thank you very much for validate that I do not talk to myself, which is not fun. So thank you. So like myself, you know, when belief are kind of mixed with religion belief, as I often give my personal example, growing up to the Jewish religion, that I was fearful of God. I was fearful of God before, obviously, getting into spirituality and knowing that God is more of an energy, his ability of anything, he's unable to do anything of negative and punishment which we're gonna touch. But growing up to a conservative, in a somewhat conservative Jewish home, I did grow up fearful of God. I more kind of imagine him with reading the Bible and following all the holidays and such, that God is more of a human being, if you will, character, a male, a harsh male. I was nervous for him. I felt like I need to follow all the Judaism, holidays and rules, which of course, like every religion, have a lot of rules. A lot of them, unfortunately, I believe are man-made. But nonetheless, I was afraid of God. And because I was afraid of God, and punishment by God was kind of, kind of went hand in hand. So, and that was quite many years, I must admit, from when I remember myself being very young and, belong to a Jewish family, all the way up until maybe in my 15 or 16, and then I kind of start to shy away, went to the army, moved to the US, and then that's when religion didn't make sense to me, or certain part of the religion, including God as a fearful being. And that's when I dive into spirituality and discover, of course, God as energy that is incapable of being negative or scary, because he outgrew that energy, meaning he is all positive in nature, if you will. So the reason I'm giving my personal example and why this topic is important for me, whether I work with people one-on-one or within the event, any event I do, I always kind of bring it up, because a lot of people are still fearful of God or of punishment once they cross over. A lot of people that are dying or ill or old, that know that they kind of close into the transition to cross over, they are fearful in punishment, because all their bad or negative things come forward and they ask me straight out, would I be punished for the things I did, for not being kind, for... So therefore, I always like to talk about, is it really a punishment in the afterlife? For the typical person, meaning for the everyday people like us, or for the bad people, because what's happened to the people that do deserve punishment, what kind of punishment, and by who? Everything's good, honey? Okay, I wasn't sure if you need something. And by who? If there is punishment, what kind of punishment? So we're going to touch it today in today's webinar. It is important subject and quite fascinating, frankly. So is there a punishment? If I would have to say yes or no, yes, there is punishment. Of course there is punishment slash consequences, if you will. So again, I brought my personal example that there is not necessarily punishment by a male figure, a human-like character God, that the moment someone would cross over, if they deserve punishment, he, that being, that male, that scary God that I used to think would struck you and punish you, or confine you into a place such a hell, that there is fire and there's demons, and like some of the religion believe. So in that respect, no, there is no punishment. And as I touched a few minutes earlier, because God is energy that only capable of positivity. Nonetheless, that wise, beautiful energy, our creator, of course, created program, as I often like to call to them, like the concept of reincarnation that give us the opportunity to enter planet Earth and refix or outgrow weaknesses that are standing on the way of our soul growth or evolution. And we, of course, enter planet Earth. We try to overcome it. If we cannot, we have the opportunity or the free will to choose another life. So reincarnation, of course, that's one of the programs that God has created, so we can come back and try again and again and again until we utilize planet Earth sufficiently when we don't need to incarnate here anymore to this planet. Of course, there are other ways and other dimensions on planet that our soul can experience life on or existence on in order to grow. Other programs that God has created is, of course, karma. Karma meaning that if a human being on planet Earth create any negative energy in the soul energy field by doing harm to other people, any level of harm, it doesn't have to be really evil acts, any negative harms, then there are consequences. And that is essentially where is the aspect of punishment. So if I say to you, yes, there is punishment, essentially the punishment is the punishment that we inflict on us, meaning we created the punishment. Every and all punishment that relate to our soul has to do with the soul stuck with growth, which is, as far as our soul is concerned, about the worst thing that can happen to us. Why is it? Because as souls, as spark of God, his creation, if you will, the only point for us of existence is to grow, contribute to our evolution, to our spiritual awareness, to our spiritual power, grow in awareness so we can get closer to him, express more of him, of our creator. And once again, planet Earth is only one dimension in which we do so. Use life on a physical body, on a dense planet Earth in order to grow. So when we fail in growing in any given incarnation, when we harm others, meaning when we accumulate negative karma, as it's called, the soul is unable to continue grow. It's stuck, if you will. And as far as our soul are concerned, that is the ultimate punishment. For example, I always talk about suicide. Suicide meaning that the personality or the ego or the negative aspect of that human being mind that decided to take their life and exit planet Earth prematurely. So is there punishment by God? As I explained earlier, God do not punish us, not ever. He is unable to do that because he outgrew anything negative. So he essentially always out of love act out of love, love us all unconditionally and equally. So as for a suicide act, there is no God that would punish us or anyone else. We will punish ourselves with the soul. Because once the soul exits a physical body from a human being that killed himself or cut their life short, for whatever it is, legitimate or not legitimate, the soul is very disappointment. Because what's happened when the life was cut short, that life gonna have to be repeat again. All the lesson, all the challenges that were supposed to contribute to the soul in that specific incarnation kind of wiped up, if you will, because the journey did not continue. Essentially, the growth was cut short. So as far as our soul is concerned, to kill oneself when the personality, when the ego essentially where it's coming from, cannot continue life on planet Earth and just bail out, that is the punishment. So when I say, is there punishment on this on in the spirit world? Yes, there is a punishment. So the punishment, we're going to touch other punishment, people that really do evil acts, which is different. But when I say is there a punishment? Yes, there is a punishment. Is punishment with ourselves because of the unable to grow, to continue to climb up, to express more of God. Also, as if you can recall me teaching over whether it was angel chat video or the webinar, how long it takes us to plan an incarnation or plan a lifetime. This is a very complex thing to do, take a long time. We do that alongside our spirit guides because a lot of things need to come into consideration when we are ready to plan a new upcoming life. We have to compare previous lives, all the weaknesses that we were unable to overcome, everything and anything that need to be included in upcoming life that will contribute to the soul growth. Because essentially what we want to achieve with planet Earth is we enter this planet for the sole reason of growing, expressing, be closer to God, spread more love into this world, which essentially, if we do that, we are closer, or express more of the God within us. So when that does not happen, when someone cut the life short, when it doesn't happen because there is a lot of negative behavior, if a person allow their ego to overtake their whole life, not discipline the ego, not grow spiritually, that doesn't mean just meditation. It's mean to be open to the concept that planet Earth is just a temporary school, not identified with external power of title and money and position. So that's what I mean by spiritual growth. Be open to God as energy, like I was. I transform myself, if you will, from a very honey, can you check the question? There's any?
No questions.
Okay, because I see one. Oh, you probably didn't see it. I forget that you have a 40-second delay. So I see question and yeah. So sorry guys. So what I'm trying to say, if for whatever reason we do not utilize planet Earth for growth, if we bail planet Earth early, and I don't just necessarily mean with the act of suicide, but perhaps not caring for the self. I unfortunately channel a lot of souls that come forward in reading that did drugs, that OD. A lot of people are OD now, a lot of people, because they're using it as external soothing because they're so chaotic within. So when they cross over, what the soul is saying, I can't believe that's happened. Because all the lesson, everything have to be tried again and again, because it takes us so long to plan a life that is a very, essentially, we punish ourselves. So when it's come to that aspect of the punishment, in a way that we create our own karma and, not utilizing planet Earth for growth, that is what I mean, that No one else punish us. There are no any other beings. Our beloved team of spirits, of spirit guide and guardian angel, the archangel, they do not interfere with any consequences. The one that have to pay are us. So why am I always mention that in event? Because that go kind of hand in hand with spiritual growth. A lot of people don't want to really bother about what's going to happen later. I don't care about later. We should, uh, because once you fully and clearly understand why we are here, why your life the way it is, when you fully understand why you have certain weaknesses that keep coming up, weaknesses in your personality, weaknesses with the life partners you choose, weaknesses about fears of money or death, or that's because you bring it from previous lives, so your soul is trying to wake you up, bring it up to the surface so you can finally overcome it. Not you, us, obviously. Overcome it. So it is important to know that you, the personality, do want to help the soul not accumulate any negative karma, not just because killing someone else is bad. Of course it's bad. That's obviously common sense to planet Earth. Is because anything of negative, from killing another human being, which is the ultimate, of course, the ultimate negative act, to leading your life in an unauthentic way, being not fair to people. I mean, I can go on and on as to example what would be causing your soul to punish itself. Because again, it takes a long time to plan the life and it's have to be utilized for growth. Having said that, obviously no one is perfect, because if we are kind of done to accomplish what we need to accomplish, we would exit planet Earth in the right time. So the fact that we still here, the fact that we still need to incarnate into planet Earth, then obviously there's still weaknesses to learn, of course. So we're not talking here to be perfect. We're talking here to have the intention to try, which essentially that's all we need to do. Intention to try, understanding the concept, grow on oneself, and understanding that the punishment that that you or a human being or a person will create themselves would is going to affect the overall evolution of your soul, and this is important. Besides, punishment or karma, as I call it, in those instances, not always translate in next life, because although it's appeared to us on planet Earth, because a lot of people tell me right now that karma doesn't make sense to them, or punishment doesn't make sense to them, because it's appeared as if the bad people live long life. Well, God does not make sense. It always makes sense, and programs are always, though his program are always to cause great fairness and order. So the point is that underneath the seemingly chaos of, bad people live long, and I'm saying, there's actually great order. So punishment, again, doesn't have to be this lifetime. The point is that consequences or punishment will happen, whether it is this lifetime, whether this we see, whether we don't see. A lot of time also what we see in the surface is not really what is, in a way that if someone lived till 90 years old and the life is quite miserable, whether it is mentally, whether it is chronic pain or whatever other reason, so that's not really life. No matter, it doesn't matter if you're 90, if you're miserable, then might as well go home. So the point is that you do have to trust in the concept that the life that you build yourself right now, with yourself, with others, how you treat others, and essentially what you need to do is you need to act like God. And if you harm someone else, you don't act like God, which what is, I said, express more of love. I really use the phrase. Let me see.
I'm not getting any chat.
Oh, really? Because I have a question here. Someone is asking here, do you think that it is possible for some to actually plan to exit via okay, I think it's Bonnie. Thank you, Bonnie. I appreciate it. For everyone to see, if you cannot see it, she's asking if a soul can actually plan to exit planet Earth via suicide. It wouldn't call suicide. Suicide relate only to the abrupt decision of the ego, the personality, to bail out for a lot of reasons. Again, some are legitimate. People that are very depressed, from the soul perspective, is never legitimate, never, ever. It's never a good. It's always punishment when it's come to the soul. It's always carry consequences, not punishment by God. Suicide souls get the most love, the most understanding. When suicide souls exit the body after death, actually those specific souls get more love, more understanding because of the act itself, because the soul is so disappointed and so sad, if you will. Obviously, we cannot give character to a soul as human being, but if I have to explain it, then again, it's important for me to say in suicide that there is no punishment other than the soul disappointment, which is the ultimate punishment when it's come to our growth. So can we choose to exit via suicide? No, because it wouldn't call it suicide. What we can choose and do choose is to exit early, which is different than suicide, for whatever reason. See, so the suicide always relate, Bonnie, to the abrupt ego. I can't take it anymore. I'm out of here for money and whatever, illnesses, whatever. The soul can, us, we do choose, every once in our life, in whatever lifetime, to exit planet Earth early. Not every incarnation we choose to stay here till 90 years old. Actually, our souls are very creative in a way that one incarnation we will plan a very long life, tiring life, till 90 years old, while another incarnation, usually we would cut it short because we're tired. It also has to do with the specific lesson that we have to learn every incarnation. So once again, suicide would be different than exiting planet Earth early, in an early age. Now, let's touch the phenomenon about a punishment, if you will, of people that do evil acts, serial killers, if you will. You don't get that?
I'm not getting any of the chat on mine, even though I keep refreshing. So
okay. So we'll talk about that a little bit, about obviously, because so far I talk about, if we don't grow enough, which why I kind of use it as the average person, us, human being. What's happened to suicide, to serial killer or serial rapists, or people or human being or ego, which essentially where it's coming from, that keep repeating the same mistake and harming other again and again and again? Do they get punished? Depend. First of all, if a ego enter planet Earth and is unable to control a temptation, because essentially that's where it's coming from. The ego, whether it can be a very twisted temptation of the need to kill, rush of killing, rush of raping, for whatever, for control of women. There's a lot of very sad reason as to why people with that strong of an ego commit such a horrible crime. So again, you have to remember that whoever it is, Hitler had a higher self within his body. What does that mean? It means that his core did have a soul. And that soul was like mine and yours, pure spark of God. The difference between us and Hitler is that higher self was buried within the body, and the personality, which what we're supposed to do in life by growing spiritually, by basing our life with love, essentially, is we align ourselves with the higher self, which is the soul energy within the body that experience life. Also, the more we climb in spirituality, we align ourselves with other light being, our spirit guide, an angel, and of course, the creator. The more dense a human being is, the more evil act, the more negative act, the more negative karma it's accumulate. Obviously, the more further from the creator, from God that human being is. Because once again, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, or in the beginning, God is all good. It wouldn't, you can mix the two. If you lead your life in a negative way, depending on the level, the more negative it is, you don't mix in with God's light or energy. It's like trying to mix oil and vinegar, and it does not work. No matter how much people go to church and be there on Sunday, if that human being is rotten all week and doesn't express God authentically in his or her life, they're not close to God, no matter how much they'll go to church. Church is just symbolically, if you will. So those serial killers, or Hitler, which is the ultimate evil, obviously. What's happened, they still do have soul, of course. There are human soul that enter planet Earth, the ego run wild, obviously completely disconnected from the higher self, the personality, the ego take over. A real quick word about the ego, as I wrote in my book, this is not a name. Ego is just not just a name. It's actually an energy field, an entity, which why I often refer to it as the ego entity. It's designed to be there within us because essentially it's act as an opponent, or it's kind of supposed to push us to change. So we see the good and the evil, if you will, or the positive or negative within us. So we have those two energy within our body, the body of our higher self slash soul, and the body of our ego. So essentially on every incarnation on planet Earth, we're supposed to make the free will decision to side with the right energy. The more we side with the energy of our higher self or soul, the more we grow spiritually, the more we closer, or the more aligned we are with the creator. At the other hand, the more, because whatever you feed, grow. This is just the nature of energy. The more you feed or align with or relate to the energy of your ego entity, which that energy within, the more you feed it, the more it grows. So a human being that have that feed that negative entity, the negative energy, the ego entity, and disconnect, or whether completely get aligned with the ego part of the personality and not the soul, and therefore from God, because we are God, we are spark of Him. So in a nutshell, so what's happened to those people that come in here and the ego take over? Essentially, the punishment would be the same, in a way that when we exit, or not we, obviously, when a human being that inflict pain on others exit, the soul is still very regretful. I have to say though that what I found over the years, that if a human being continue to inflict pain, meaning, remember I explained a few minutes ago about the concept of reincarnation. We're supposed to rise above weaknesses. If no, we come again and again and again until we are able to rise above every weaknesses or negative aspect that are standing on the way of the soul growth, in a way that if you have an anger within you that you are unable to rise above, you don't do anything about it, and therefore the anger grow, because once again, energy do not stay still. It become better or go back, or or worse. So your soul kind of stuck, because you can be an angry human being and get closer to the creator that lack anger. So just so you know what I mean by you need to work on yourself in order to continue to grow. So people that are unable to discipline their ego enough, that that run wild, run loose, what I found out, that after the passing, if it's a severe or significant evil acts, if you will, there is a limitation as to how they come back to an incarnation, what kind of a life, meaning it's limited, it's governed, it's not, you can't freely, just what everyone else, what the rest of the souls do, meaning kind of, plan the life. What I'm trying to say, that people that are unable to rise above temptation on planet Earth, and they enter planet Earth, and again, unable to rise in the same way that maybe we have to rise above envy or anger. There are human beings that what stand on the way of the soul growth is temptation of planet Earth, or control. If that control express itself through rape, if you will, or that, so what's happened after that, then they are forbidden, if you will, by entering to another incarnation. It takes that soul longer to review what went wrong. There are additional beings, ascended master, additional spirit guide, and archangel that help the soul, because the act of evil cloud the soul auric field. So what I'm trying to say, that over the years I came to realize that people that really inflict bad act, and again, it does have to be quite severe, go through different afterlife process, as I call it, because the review of the life take longer. It take longer for the soul to clear the evil act. And if it's really, really bad, then they are confined in a different level, in kind of a dense level, if you will, and they are unable to reincarnate into planet Earth or any other planet until the soul is completely bright again. Those levels where those severe souls go to, I kind of refer to it as hell. So when people ask me as a medium, do you believe in heaven and hell? Heaven, of course, I believe. Of course, the whole spirit world is heaven, really, by the way, because we are going back home. In the spirit world, we are souls. We don't have the body and the mind and the pain. Well, that's heaven to me, and I'm sure you can relate what I mean. It's heaven. But there are really even more heavenly-like dimension, such as the ascended master and the angelic kingdom. So, of course, there is heaven. And the higher you go in awareness, the higher you are in vibrational, the closer you are to express it God's energy. And that's, of course, more and more heavenly. As for hell, compared to the hell that may be religion, with the horn and devil and the fire, I never channeled that specific place, but they are pretty nasty, because people, personalities that keep inflicting pain on planet Earth or other dimension, and the soul is so tainted with negativity that it does not allow to repeat or to incarnate into planet Earth for long time. The reason I say long time, because obviously in spirit we do not have time, but long time, not a year or two, to be 100 years if we have to kind of translate what we have. So they are confined to those low level. Those low level are nasty. Those low levels are nasty. They're very dense, because collectively all the nasty souls that have tainted with the personality, essentially negative acts, are there. So I also channel over the years something that I found quite fascinating, that someone like Hitler, for example, that harm massive amount of human being, meaning which is, when it's come to level of severity, it would be more severe. Obviously, every human being, if someone kill another, that's obviously precious to someone. But there is a difference between, I don't know, few million people, and if someone, kill, murder, or serial killer. The point is that there's also, I know that when I channel that specific information, they use the phrase spirit recycle. So if someone like Hitler or others, obviously over history, there is enough example to give, then the soul start from the beginning, kind of split itself to different sparks, and that specific soul cannot, because of the act, cannot be rehabilitated, if you will. So even going to that, confined level where, the soul take its time and, work on itself so it can start climbing up, certain souls cannot do that anymore, meaning that it's tainted enough that they have to start from the beginning. So I know that over the years, I had a hard time, especially the beginning when I channeled that in the beginning of me channeling through automatic writing, which essentially where I got all my information over the years. It was kind of weird for me to hear, especially kind of the word recycle, that certain souls cannot be rehabilitated. They just have to be, start from the beginning, meaning kind of break. Nonetheless, that is the channeling that I got. So when it's come to punishment, as you can see, the answer, is there a punishment? Yes. It's not one answer that fit all. As you can see, some answer has to do with us, as I mentioned, and the example I gave is suicide. I don't know if you guys trying to chat. I know that Clayton is here desperately trying to see why he is unable to chat. So I don't know, guys. I'm just a little bit nervous that I'm talking to myself. so if you can, just shoot a quick chat that you still see me and everything's okay, because it's a little bit quiet today, the chat room, and usually it's much more busy. And Clayton claimed that he cannot see anything, or perhaps there's no question, but usually it's a little bit more busy. So again, as to the punishment, once again, as you can tell, that there's all kind of way of punishment. Punish the first and foremost as we punish ourselves, meaning consequences. Soul, I don't mean human being and the personality, I mean from the soul overall perspective. And they also have some programs that God has created if some souls have been too tainted by a negative or evil act of the personalities. And that's again have to be something that is collectively, that human being, once again, like Hitler, that affected millions of souls, millions of human beings with his cruelty. So the souls cannot continue, it's tainted too much, and it starts from the beginning. So you are still on. Thank you, Amy.
I finally got one.
Did you? Clayton is happy he got your chat, Amy. It's kind of weird. I don't know if I'm talking and I'm all enjoying myself, which is, don't know. I don't quite like to see myself too much. It's just, anyway, thank you, Amy, for telling me that I'm still on. I appreciate it. So, yes, that is the aspect. If, of course, someone hurting collectively, planet Earth, the planet itself, but it have to be, from what I understood over time, quite severe for the soul to be recycled or kind of break into a lot of bits, a lot of sparks, and start from the beginning. Essentially, it's appear that it's depending on how bad the punishment is. Again, for the normal person, for not succeeding to grow, then obviously it's the punishment we take ourselves because we delay the growth. And then you have the people that kind of lifted up a notch with their ego negative thing, like murder and rapists and more other evil intention. It have to be intentional, of course. That's when they go to the spiritual hell, I believe exists, that level where all those kind of souls are there.
Amy's asking a question. If someone has mental illness and commits evil or mean acts, how does that work in the afterlife?
Oh, thank you, Amy. What a lovely. It's funny that I was just saying intentionally. That's why it's important that if someone commit an evil act, we should find out the reason. If a person truly and authentically, obviously we're not a doctor, but if a person truly or authentically did not, how you call it, not respond, was not able to know right from wrong, meaning blackout. I don't know. You know how you know those cases, Amy, when the person say, I didn't remember anything. Most time it's nonsense, but then it's not. Everything go by intention. It's the same way that I talked about last week. Remember with the pet webinar when people say I'm guilty, what if I didn't give the dog good life? And it's all about intention. Intention is what caused the karma. So listen, we have a very complex existent on planet Earth, which why the soul love it. Love it, we love it, because it's such a great school. What is that complex? The mind is complex, and there are mental illnesses, of course. And sometimes mental illnesses do cause people to do evil acts. I wouldn't call it even negative acts, let's say. I work a lot of people with schizophrenia, and they tell me, if I don't take my medicine, Mickey, I cannot control my mind. So obviously, if someone did it because of mental illness, you don't give them a green ticket, or don't know how you say it in English, free pass. That's nice English, free pass. You don't do that. You put them in jail, you find out what's going on. A lot of times also the doctor's fault, you know how things are, Of course, even that, look at some of those murderers, that men that shoot those kids, the theater, or that, okay, so they were mentally ill. You still don't put them back in the public. But it's different. It's different because when the soul cross over to the spirit world, as souls, we see the bigger picture. There's no more lies. All the cards are on the table. This is it. It is. I mean, as soul, we energy being. That's why our departed loved one, that's why our spirit guide know our intention. They know, because there's no more hiding behind the mind or thought or lies or ego. So the soul will be able to know if the act was uncontrollable, or if the act was fake and the person didn't intentionally did that. So the punishment or the severity of it depends. If indeed it was not meant to be, meaning the intention of causing harm was not there because of the mind, then the punishment or is less, obviously, is less. So I hope I answer your question, Amy, but that's a great question, because, a lot of people confused by that. And that's why I say, if it's also difficult a time on planet Earth to know if there was an intention or not intention. I mean, because the ego can be crafty and act as if it was a mental thing, which why I gave the example about someone say, I had a blackout. I didn't remember waking up and killing the family. So you do need to know. But it doesn't matter here. It's matter when we cross over. And when that soul cross over, it's going to know if the person, obviously it's going to know if the personality did it in purpose. And if it did it in purpose, intentionally, as I call it, that does contribute or consider a negative karma, which again would kind of, delay the growth. Oh, that's you. So I hope you understand by that.
Donna's asking,
yes.
Does the soul choose to come here with strong egos that cause chaos in order to grow?
Thank you, Dana. Thank you, and I appreciate you getting joining the webinar again. Yes, the ego is quite quite crafty. The potential of an ego on each incarnation, meaning the weaknesses of the personality that we incarnate into, absolutely pre-planned by the soul, absolutely, because it's had to do with the growth. If we enter the life incarnation very, very plain, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to act on it. That's why it's such a great concept, planet Earth. So the ego, the soul will plan a specific ego, meaning weaknesses of the personality. No human being have no ego. It's a byproduct of who we are, and it's the part of the growth. essentially another program of God, because a lot of people ask me, why is it even there that God is so great? Because we are lazy species, arrogant at times, in a way that we need an opponent without something reflecting to you what you need to grow, meaning you come to a point where you say, I can't stand my anger anymore, or my envy, or whatever, the jealousy. Essentially the ego is there for you to wake up and kind of rise above it. Obnoxious, yes. Ridiculous, yes, but there for a reason. So those weaknesses of the personality are, first of all, the personality is very, very plain by the soul to a T. How we're going to look, weaknesses of the body, strength of the body, weaknesses of the mind. Is it a mind that would be prone to academic? Is it a mind that would be prone to temptation? I mean, everything, the personality, who you are today, who Mickey is today, very much, nothing is coincident. My weaknesses up until now in this incarnation are very much planned for the soul, for the sake of growth. It's also include previous lifetimes. So all the previous personalities has been compared as to why Mickey this lifetime is a female, why I have certain weaknesses, essentially part of the ego that I still need to work. What's the strength? Also the strength including the personality, because obviously you need something to balance the nastiness of the ego. But again, nothing is written on stone. A soul would not enter planet Earth only negative. It's essentially, it's written in the blueprint, which is the detail of an upcoming life, of the life we live now, all the potential growth, and the ego included in it. It's our job, of course, to detect it. A lot of people don't detect the ego. They are clueless about it, don't quite necessarily understand or believe in the concept of the ego or the negative part of us, why we have those weaknesses. So obviously if you're not aware of something, it's kind of difficult to work on. So, but it is there, and it is for a reason. And that's how really you grow. I mean, I know there is a lot of weaknesses of my personality over time that it was very easy for me to see how I came to a point where I got tired of it. I actually felt that it stand on the way of my growth as a human being and certainly as a soul. And I decided to rise above it, or try to rise above it. So you see, without that, if we would come to planet Earth without ego or weaknesses or that entity within us, essentially there's no point of growth, because we would come here and then what? Or everything is just great and everything is positive. It doesn't work like that. It's have to have that balance. Everything have to have that balance of negative and positive. And then you apply your free will, which one you want to choose, obviously. So again, it's quite organized and quite wise as to the concept of incarnation. I want to say something about the suicide, and again, give the example of Judaism, which is my religion. People that kill themselves in Judaism are not buried within the cemetery. They're buried outside. Ridiculous, meaning in the Judaism, they feel that it's a sin. I think Christianity too, no. I know there are other religions that call suicide act as a sin. I'm not familiar with religion that much.
No, they call it a sin, but it doesn't have to do with where you're buried.
Okay, but they do call it a sin.
Course.
They do call it a sin.
It's even against the law.
Wow. Okay, they do call it a sin. Think about what I teach as a spiritual teacher, whether you believe in it or not. Obviously, that came from the source, because I channel that from spirits. That doesn't mean you have to believe it, just perhaps listen to it and take what you want. The look, or rather the perspective of spirits, or God as energy, or spirituality, let's call it, about suicide, is so night and day than religion, because not only they don't call it a sin, which religion do, which why I told you Judaism, they bury them outside the cemetery, the cemetery, meaning kind of the like a outlaw, like away.
Outcast.
Outcast. It's not only not a sin when it's come to perspective of spirit, of spirituality, talking about the suicide. They understand. They know, specifically our spirit guide, they're human souls that utilize planet Earth in any variation. You've heard me say that before. To become a spirit guide, that's mean that you paid all your karma back, you rise above all the weaknesses from all the previous lives, you pay back your balance, where you don't need to come to planet Earth anymore. That's a great achievement. To become a guide, you can remain in the spirit world and grow in a little bit more pleasant environment. Obviously, they remain in the spirit world. So they understand act of suicide, which why it was important for me to say today, there is no punishment. They are not angry at us. If a person killed himself and the soul exit the planet Earth, all that soul get are hugs and kisses and understanding and love. That soul travel to an energetically friendly dimension away from planet Earth. Why is it? Because the soul punishes itself. The soul is disappointed that the life was cut short, that the ego, that plan as a potential for growth, essentially took over. So that's what I mean by there is no punishment. So, but each to his own, and obviously a lot of people think it is a sin. My job is to spread spirituality. That is my life calling. That is what I do with what I do in my work and my calling. And there is, so the point is that I do work with a lot of people or family that had someone that killed themselves. And I can clearly see the difference. Of course, they have to be somewhat open. And if they come to me, obviously they are open to the concept of medium or a spiritual teacher. But I can absolutely see the difference between the fear, the sheer fear that their loved one killed themselves and being punished by God, the ultimate creator. How awful is that? Where in fact, God is the one that created the program. That if a human being could not handle planet Earth anymore and exit prematurely, you give that soul more love than others. Because he is all love, he cannot punish. How can he? We're supposed to grow in our own pace. So if you know someone that killed themselves or anything, please be open to the concept because and know it to be so. As for religion, sometimes religion do mix in, but there it's not sin, there is no punishment, and really that's why I brought the buried outside the cemetery, which cause, think about it, if the family is already grieving, which is really suicide, it just destroy a lot of life. It doesn't matter if the person leave a loving note, no note. Most of the note that I work with people are messy because the mental state was not right. So think about the heaviness of the grief when it's come to someone that killed themselves. And then you add up the religion that no, they cannot be buried with the other family members. So, or sin. Why is it a sin? Of course it's not a sin. Is it okay to kill ourselves? No, it's not okay. It's a very simple reason as to why it's not okay, because things will be better. They will always get better. No matter how bad you think things are, you're not alone. That is the main message of my teaching, the concept of that group of spirit that accompany us. And as I always tell people that come to me, life go like that. It just go up and it's go down. Some down are very down and nasty. They will climb up. You just have to get resources, whether it is spirituality, pray, know that God is there, go to obviously common sense, a therapy, fix your mind if you need medication or whatever. I'm just saying that over the years, really channeling so many souls of suicide people, it's really the ultimate disappointed that the soul cut a life short. So.
One quick question.
Yes.
Still, is dying from alcoholism the same karma as suicide by immediate results?
Alcoholism,
Then we'll wrap it up.
yes. Who said that? Oh, Dan,
Don.
thank you. Alcoholism is still a choice because when a person, it appears as if it's not a choice because addiction is terrible, it is still a choice. It is still, in a way that, as sad as it sounds, when a person decides for, because it's easier, it's tough to stop drinking. Obviously, you don't need to be a medium to know that, but you need to stop because obviously this is a very negative act. So when it's come to people that, for example, OD, that didn't necessarily, God forbid, put a gun to their head, or over drinking, which again, there are so many nowadays, it's still considered a negative karma. And it's still actually, Dana, when they come forward, those souls, they do call it a suicide. They absolutely call it a suicide. Is as a medium, I can tell the way the soul look when it's an actual suicide with a note and God forbid hanging or terrible, to a suicide where it's a little bit OD when things went wrong, and then the soul, which show you what I mean when I talk to them about, today about the ultimate punishment, the soul absolutely tell me, Mickey, I killed myself because I knew better. Not the soul, the personality. So essentially, anything with addiction, no matter how difficult it is, it's just part of the growth to climb above it. And you know, a lot of souls also mentioned to me that they were aware that what they were mixing, pills and you know what I'm saying, would lead to no good. So again, it's not suicide per se, but energetically it is a suicide, and therefore it is the ultimate punishment by the soul to itself. So thank you so much, guys. I hope you like it. Thank you for taking your time. Take to heart today's information. It really is important because it's reflect to how you should look at your life. It's reflecting to another thing other than talking only about the punishment. It's reflect why you need to grow spiritually. Remember, we already talked what does that mean, not necessarily just meditation. In the same way, going to church doesn't mean believing in God, the same thing. It's a lifestyle, it's a way of living. When I use the phrase grow spiritually, you want to essentially be God in your body, express who He is. So the point is that it's important information, and it would be great if you can apply it to your life and use it. Thank you, you're welcome. Thank you, guys, and have a great upcoming weekend. Please be careful, don't drink and drive and do anything silly. Stay safe, take responsibility for your life, and I will see you in 2 weeks. We're going to talk about soulmates. That's really hot topics, especially for us women. So I will see you then. Take care. Bye, guys.